There exists a book that defies the very fabric of understanding, a book that has gazed back at humanity for centuries, silent, enigmatic, unbroken by logic or time. It is known as the Voynich Manuscript, and it rests today behind glass, cradled in the sterile vaults of Yale University's Botanical Rare Book Library. Yet no scholar, no cryptographer, no mystic has ever truly unlocked the labyrinth of its pages. Bound in ancient vellum, the manuscript appears at first innocent enough, pages thick with text punctuated by delicate illustrations. But peer closer, and the veil of familiarity dissolves. The writing, flowing, curling, almost dancing across the page, belongs to no known language. No Latin, no Greek, no Coptic. Its letters are neither the scrawls of madness nor the careless doodlings of an idle mind. They are deliberate, measured, woven into patterns that hint at meaning just beyond the grasp of human reason. The illustrations deepen the mystery, botanical drawings of plants that do not exist upon this earth, cosmic diagrams of stars and moons that hint at otherworldly alignments, pools of naked women tangled in strange ritualistic poses among undulating waters. Every page whispers of a reality both intimately familiar and utterly alien, as if gazing into a mirror from another dimension. From the moment it emerged into human awareness, the Voynich Manuscript refused classification. It bore no title, no author's name, no map for those who sought to navigate its twisted corridors. It seemed less a book created for human eyes and more an artifact birthed from the collective dream of a forgotten civilization, a relic of a knowledge stream that slipped like water through the clenched fists of history. Some claimed it was a hoax, a grand and elaborate jest played upon the gullible. Others swore it was a lost work of alchemical initiation, a text encrypted to preserve sacred teachings from the profane. Still others whispered of darker origins, that it was the residue of a vanished race, a message left not for scholars, but for souls whose memories had once soared beyond the prison walls of flesh and time. What is certain is that the manuscript endures, untouched by translation, impervious to the march of modernity. For every cipher cracked, another layer of confusion emerges. Every so-called solution gives birth only to deeper questions, more intricate mysteries. The Voynich Manuscript does not ask to be solved. It demands to be felt, to be entered like a temple where every stone speaks in riddles, and every corridor folds into another realm. It stands as a testament to the limits of human intellect and the enduring hunger for a wisdom that cannot be dissected by ordinary means. And as we step across its threshold, drawn deeper into its silent song, we must ask ourselves, is this book truly incomprehensible? Or have we simply forgotten the language of the soul? It was a day like any other in 1912, when Wilfred Voynich, a Polish antiquarian and rare book dealer, wandered through the echoing halls of a crumbling Jesuit college near Rome. Dust clung to forgotten tomes, and the scent of aged parchment saturated the air. Yet amidst the ruins of history, Voynich's hand brushed against something different, something that pulsed with a life of its own. There, tucked within a battered chest, lay the manuscript. Its pages, though worn by centuries, exuded a strange vitality, as if the book itself resisted decay. Voynich, a man well versed in rare texts, immediately sensed the magnitude of his find. This was no ordinary relic. The manuscript bore an inscrutable alphabet, coiling across hundreds of pages, accompanied by impossible botanical sketches, intricate cosmological charts, and mysterious female figures immersed in alchemical scenes. It was a treasure map without a key, a gospel without a prophet. Voynich transported the manuscript back into the modern world, igniting a firestorm of speculation. Some scholars likened it to an undiscovered codex of medieval medicine. Others believed it encoded a profound mystical doctrine. Cryptographers, fresh from breaking wartime codes, turned their attention to the book, confident that no human hand could create a cipher that eluded reason forever. And yet, the manuscript defied them all. As Voynich sought opinions across Europe, the greatest minds of the time were both fascinated and humbled. Experts in ancient languages and codes pored over its lines, convinced they stood at the threshold of some monumental revelation, and each one, without fail, emerged defeated. The manuscript's history, too, proved elusive. Hidden within its pages was a faded letter suggesting that it had once belonged to Emperor Rudolph II of the Holy Roman Empire, a ruler obsessed with the occult. Rudolph reportedly paid a king's ransom for it, believing it to be the work of the English alchemist Roger Bacon. If true, this origin would place the manuscript not merely within the dusty annals of scholarship, but at the heart of Europe's fevered search for the Philosopher's Stone. But the trail remained slippery. Ownership passed from hand to hand, from emperors to obscure scholars, from secretive monks to forgotten collectors. Each custodian, it seemed, added a new layer of mystery, a new twist to the spiral staircase, leading ever deeper into the unknown. Voynich himself spent the remainder of his life obsessed with the manuscript's riddle, dedicating years to uncovering its secrets. Yet death claimed him before he could glimpse even a shard of understanding. The manuscript, indifferent to the fates of those who sought to master it, passed into the custody of others. Yet in every dusty corner where it lay, it seemed to him a silent invitation, a challenge offered not to the mind alone, but to the very soul of the seeker. It was never merely a book to be read. It was a portal, waiting for the right eyes, the right heart to open it. To open the Voynich manuscript is to step into a world that both entices and unsettles, a garden of forbidden knowledge where every bloom defies natural order. Each page is a tapestry woven from mysteries, ink and vellum binding not just words and images, but something older, something deeper, as though the book itself breathes the remnants of a forgotten realm. The first pages reveal an impossible botany, plants unlike any that have ever graced the known earth. Their stems twist into unnatural geometries, their leaves unfurl into impossible spirals, their roots writhe and branch like serpents drinking from unseen waters. To the botanists who first laid eyes upon these images, the plants seemed a grotesque mockery of nature. Yet they were rendered with such care, such botanical precision, that it was clear this was no idle fantasy. Turn the pages further, and the stars begin to wheel overhead. Astronomical diagrams, circles within circles, burst into view, adorned with suns, moons, and stars, arranged in configurations unknown to any terrestrial sky. Here, the constellations are strangers. The zodiac is distorted, reimagined, as if glimpsed through the trembling veil that separates worlds. Then come the figures. Women, always women, sketched with delicate lines moving through intricate networks of strange tubes and pools. Some seem to bathe, others to flow like spirits through unseen vessels. The waters they inhabit are not mere rivers, but channels of force, of unseen energy. It is as though the book maps an anatomy not of flesh, but of spirit, a diagram of how life itself circulates through the hidden body of the cosmos. The manuscript structure hints at an organization, a botanical section, an astronomical section, a biological or anatomical section, yet it resists any final categorization. Its logic coils inward like a spiral, forever folding back upon itself. The more one attempts to divide and define it, the more it slips away, like mist between grasping fingers. Scholars cataloged over 240 pages, but missing leaves suggest it was once even grander. Some pages fold outward, expanding into intricate charts too vast to be contained within a single spread. Others carry what appear to be recipes or incantations, written in the same unfathomable hand. The language, if it is a language, behaves in ways both familiar and alien. Words repeat in patterns that suggest grammar, but no known tongue matches its rhythm. It possesses an internal consistency, a hidden syntax, that hints at meaning just out of reach, like a melody heard faintly through thick walls. Was it a manual for celestial navigation, a codex of secret herbal remedies, a roadmap for the soul's journey through unseen worlds? Every theory kindles another question, every answer crumbles into deeper riddles. It is said that true magic resides not in what can be understood, but in what must be surrendered to. In the Voynich manuscript, we glimpse a reflection of that magic. The raw, unfiltered mystery that once saturated the ancient world, before logic sought to box the infinite into neat categories. It does not seek to teach us through reason. It seeks to awaken a memory buried so deep within that even our dreams have forgotten it. No sooner had the Voynich Manuscript emerged from the shadows of obscurity than it became the center of a relentless and fevered battle, a war not of armies but of minds. Scholars, linguists, mystics, and codebreakers alike hurled themselves at its pages, each believing they would be the one to shatter its veil of secrecy. Yet for every theory proposed, 100 more crumbled into dust. Early on, some insisted the manuscript was a brilliant cipher, a code so sophisticated that only the sharpest intellect could crack it. Theories bloomed like wildflowers. Some believed it encoded a lost natural philosophy, others thought it preserved the secret herbal remedies of ancient healers. Cryptographers who had unraveled the darkest wartime secrets of nations found themselves humbled, defeated, by a book that yielded neither pattern nor key. World War II codebreakers, men who had broken the enigma machine, labored for years upon its script, only to throw up their hands in frustration. No known cipher matched its patterns. It was, as one analyst put it, a language from a world no human eye has seen. Still others suggested the manuscript was a hoax, an elaborate fabrication by a Renaissance trickster designed to dupe wealthy collectors. Yet such claims withered under scrutiny. The writing was too consistent, the internal structure too refined. Hoaxes lose coherence over length. The Voynich Manuscript maintained its mystifying integrity over hundreds of pages, an impossible feat for any forger. Then came the mystics, the spiritualists, who looked upon the manuscript not with cold logic but with the eyes of the soul. They saw within its pages not gibberish but a language of dreams, an attempt to capture truths that rational language could never convey. To them, the bizarre plants were not botanical records but symbols of inner growth. The star maps charted not the heavens above, but the constellations of the spirit within. Some suggested it was a book of alchemical transformation, its recipes encoding not physical concoctions, but spiritual rites designed to transmute the soul from lead to gold. The bathing women, they argued, depicted the soul's purification through the waters of celestial light, the hidden rivers that flow through the universe and the human body alike. The battle lines hardened between the rationalists and the mystics, each side convinced that only their lens could bring the manuscript into focus. Yet the book remained maddeningly aloof, offering no confirmations, no acknowledgments of any theory imposed upon it. In recent years, artificial intelligence was turned upon the manuscript. Sophisticated algorithms parsed its letters, its rhythms, seeking hidden codes or lost languages. The machines, too, failed. Patterns emerged and dissolved, promising revelation only to collapse into ambiguity once more. The Voynich Manuscript seemed to mock all attempts at conquest, remaining a sacred mirror that revealed not its own secrets, but the limits of human certainty. Every scholar, every cryptographer, every spiritualist who approached it brought their own assumptions, their own reflections, and the manuscript, like an ancient oracle, offered them back, transformed, distorted, magnified. Perhaps that is the manuscript's true purpose. Not to be solved, but to be entered. Not to yield answers, but to awaken deeper questions. For in its silent halls, every seeker sees not the mind's triumph, but the soul's longing. Beneath the tangled vines of confusion, beyond the war of interpretations, a different kind of seeker whispers a forgotten possibility. What if the Voynich Manuscript was never meant to be read by the mind? What if its true language speaks not to the logic of scholars, but to the deeper intuition slumbering within every soul? To the spiritualist, the manuscript is not a code to be broken, but a mirror to be entered. A map of the unseen, drawn in symbols that bypass the intellect entirely. Its bizarre plants are not errors of nature, but representations of forces that sustain the life of both body and spirit. Its strange women, moving through pools and channels, are not mere figures, but emblems of energy flowing through unseen rivers, the rivers of light, memory, and spirit that underlie all of creation. The peculiar script, so often labeled nonsensical, is seen instead as an invocation, a vibrational pattern meant to stir something ancient within the reader, something long buried beneath the noise of reason. Like a sacred chant in a forgotten tongue, it sings to the marrow of the soul, awakening echoes of a wisdom older than written history. In this view, the manuscript is a manual for inner alchemy, the sacred transformation of the human spirit. It does not instruct through words and definitions, but through the stirring of images, emotions, and forgotten senses. It calls the seeker to move beyond the linear mind, to reawaken the sacred faculties of vision, intuition, and remembrance. Some who have spent years gazing upon its pages describe a strange phenomenon, a feeling not of frustration, but of familiarity. A tugging at the edges of consciousness, a whisper that says, "You once understood this, you have only forgotten." It is as if the manuscript reaches into the deep waters of the unconscious, stirring dreams and symbols that transcend any single culture or language. The astrological charts, so alien to modern astronomy, seem designed to reattune the soul to cosmic rhythms lost in the mechanical ticking of modern time. The herbal diagrams hint at medicines not merely of the body, but of the spirit, elixirs brewed in the crucible of inner transformation rather than physical laboratories. The manuscript offers no instructions in any conventional sense. It demands participation, surrender, and the rekindling of senses dulled by centuries of exile from the sacred. It asks the reader not to solve it, but to remember alongside it, to awaken an ancient knowing that once flowed freely through the veins of humanity. Perhaps the Voynich Manuscript was never intended to yield to force, to logic, to analysis. Perhaps it is an initiation, disguised as a puzzle, awaiting the return of a humanity ready to see not with the eyes of the body, but with the eyes of the soul. And so, for those who approach it with reverence rather than conquest, the manuscript still speaks, not in words, but in dreams. Beneath the silent pages of the Voynich Manuscript, a deeper current flows, a hidden knowledge, forbidden not by decree, but by the very nature of a world that forgot how to listen. The ancients knew that true wisdom could not be passed through mere words. They encoded it in symbols, rituals, and living texts that demanded transformation from the seeker. The Voynich Manuscript bears the unmistakable marks of such a tradition, a wisdom not designed to be explained, but to be experienced, internalized, and lived. Among the strange twisting plants, spiritual herbalists see more than botanical oddities. They see representations of energies, plants of spirit, not merely of matter. Each tendril, each petal, reflects archetypes of healing not limited to the body, but aimed at restoring the original harmony between soul, mind, and the living cosmos. The recipes hidden within may well be formulas for a different kind of alchemy, the regeneration of consciousness itself. The naked figures immersed in pools and channels are no mere curiosities of art. They embody a sacred science, the flow of energies through the inner temples of the human form. These rivers mirror the ancient concept of life force, the waters of spirit that course invisibly through all beings, connecting the seen and the unseen, the mortal and the divine. The astronomical diagrams point not simply to the physical heavens, but to the hidden architecture of the soul's ascent through cosmic realms. Their unfamiliar constellations whisper of journeys that transcend flesh and blood, voyages through the celestial spheres toward the source itself. Some theorists have dared to suggest that the manuscript preserves teachings from a lost civilization, a bridge between Atlantis and the surviving mystery schools of Egypt, Mesopotamia, and beyond. Others believe it encapsulates the secret doctrines of initiates who guarded sacred truths through ages of darkness, knowing that when the stars were once again right, the seeds would sprout anew. What terrifies the modern mind about the Voynich Manuscript is not simply that it cannot be understood. It is that it hints at an order of knowledge in which the heart, the intuition, and the spirit are the primary organs of perception, not the dissecting, categorizing intellect. In a world ruled by the illusion of control, the manuscript stands as a silent act of rebellion. It is a testament to a forgotten time when humans saw themselves not as masters of nature, but as participants in its eternal dance, when the sacred was not confined to temples and scriptures, but pulsed through every leaf, every star, every breath. Thus the Voynich Manuscript remains forbidden not because it was locked away by force, but because it demands a price few are willing to pay, the surrender of certainty, the sacrifice of pride, the reawakening of a vision long buried beneath layers of forgetfulness. For those who dare, however, the manuscript is not a dead relic. It is a living bridge, a gateway back into the sacred river of being, where the soul remembers its place in the vast, shimmering order of existence. In the modern world, we are taught to see with the outer eye, to measure, to categorize, to dissect. But the Voynich Manuscript stands as a relic from a time when another eye was honored above all. The intuitive eye, the unseen organ that perceives truth not through facts, but through resonance. To approach the manuscript with the rational mind alone is to find only confusion. Its language mocks translation, its images slip through the nets of analysis. But to approach it with the intuitive eye is to sense something stirring beneath the surface. A hidden music vibrating between the lines, a language of spirit that transcends the limits of speech. The intuitive eye was once humanity's birthright. It allowed the ancients to read the stars not merely as lights in the sky, but as living symbols. It allowed them to walk into the forest and feel the songs of the plants, to drink from a river and know the dreams it carried from the mountains. It is this faculty that the Voynich Manuscript seeks to reawaken. Each plant drawn within its pages calls to something dormant within us. Memories of a time when healing was not mechanical, but a sacred communion between body, earth, and spirit. Each diagram, each naked figure immersed in flowing waters, speaks to the soul's secret pathways, the rivers of energy forgotten by a humanity obsessed with steel and stone. To awaken the intuitive eye is to remember how to listen beyond hearing, how to see beyond sight. It is to read not the letters but the spaces between them, to feel not the meaning imposed by the mind, but the pulse of life that beats beneath every symbol. The Voynich Manuscript refuses to yield to conquest because it was never written for the conquering mind. It was written, or perhaps woven, for the seeker who understands that some doors are opened not by force, but by surrender. That some knowledge is not given but recalled, like a forgotten song echoing faintly from the distant shores of the soul. In every curve of its script, in every impossible bloom sketched upon its pages, the manuscript invites us to close the eyes of judgment and open the eye of wonder. It beckons us to trust in a form of knowing that does not explain, but transforms. A knowing that dissolves the walls between self and cosmos, between question and answer, between the seeker and the sought. For those who dare to awaken this ancient sight, the Voynich Manuscript ceases to be a riddle. It becomes a mirror, reflecting the lost temples within, where spirit and earth once danced as one. Time has not tamed the Voynich Manuscript. It lies in a sterile glass case, yet it hums with the same restless energy, the same siren call it has sung for centuries. Despite every microscope, every algorithm, every attempt to bind it within the neat cages of human logic, it remains defiantly alive. A whisper from the ancient heart of the world to those still willing to hear. Generations have come and gone, scholars and skeptics alike, each hoping to wrest its secrets into the light. Yet the manuscript endures not as a defeated riddle, but as an enduring testament, that there are realms of knowledge untouched by the passage of time, unreachable by the tools of conquest. It is not an object to be solved, it is an invitation to a deeper remembering. In the quiet of the Botanical library, where sterile lights try in vain to strip it of its aura, the manuscript still speaks, though not to the ears tuned only to noise. It murmurs to the dreamers, the seekers, the wanderers, who carry within them the faded memories of forgotten temples and starlit sanctuaries. It speaks of a time when wisdom was not bought and sold, but lived and breathed, when to know was to be transformed, when the act of seeking was itself a sacred pilgrimage through the infinite mysteries of existence. Even now, when a curious soul gazes upon its flowing script, something ancient stirs within. A shiver, a fleeting glimpse of another life, another way of seeing. The plants seem to sway with hidden life. The stars whisper in constellations no telescope records. The soul feels, if only for a heartbeat, that it stands at the threshold of a vast and forgotten garden, a garden it once called home. The Voynich Manuscript endures because it does not belong to history. It belongs to the eternal. It waits for those ready to abandon the armor of certainty, to cast aside the brittle maps of the known, and step barefoot into the fertile mystery where spirit and matter meet. In a world desperate for answers, the manuscript offers only a mirror, one that reflects not what we know, but what we have lost. And in that reflection lies a terrible, beautiful choice: to turn away in fear or to plunge deeper into the mystery, trusting the ancient voice that still murmurs, in the blood, in the earth, in the stars. The Voynich Manuscript still whispers. And if you dare to listen, you may find that it was never speaking to the mind at all, but to the soul that remembers.